Hello, this is another of our family series and Bible teaching videos. Last time we dealt with fathers' attitudes to children. We didn't refer to Ephesians, we referred to Colossians chapter 3. But in Ephesians it says this: Fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. This is Ephesians 6 and verse number 4. Nurture and admonition. They're very interesting terms there, because a father has to be one who feeds his children. And he is to be one who warns and reminds his children. They have to be brought up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. They have to be a place of warmth, of caring, of feeding, of love, of being cherished. That's very important, and God would make that very clear in His Word. I'd like to deal today with the subject of children and parents. I'm not going to spend a long time on this. These video teaching sessions are pretty short. But I want to read to you Colossians, and I want to read to you Ephesians. In Colossians it says this, Colossians 3 verse 20, Children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well pleasing unto the Lord. Ephesians chapter 6 says this, verse 1, Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honour thy father and mother, which is the first commandment, with promise, that it may be well with thee, and that thou mayest live long on the earth. Now here's an interesting thing. Many of the Old Testament promises were not carried forward into the New Testament. A lot of them, in terms of physical blessing and wealth that is promised as a result of living honourably for God, are not carried forward, not automatic in the New Testament. But here's one that is. It says that you have to honour your father and mother. It's the first commandment with promise. So he's really saying here's a commandment that has a promise attached to it, and it becomes a priority commandment in this sense. And it says the reason for it is that you might be well. It might be well for you, good for you, healthy for you, and that you may live long on the earth. So there's promise of long life for obedient children. That's an interesting thing to see, that obedience to parents, there's a promise that God says that you may live long on the earth. Now we don't know how that works out in practice, and I wouldn't dare to look at some people and say, well, they didn't honour their parents, therefore they died earlier than others. But here's a commandment that's carried forward from the Old Testament. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. This is the right thing to do. This is a proper thing to do. Now, I take it these are Christian children that are being addressed because it's in the Lord, so they've to be those who are aware of what is right and what is wrong before God. That's a wonderful thing. Children who get saved and it changes them. I was saved very young. It does make a difference to your life, the way you think, the way you behave. And so Ephesians says that. Colossians says, obey your parents in all things. So there are no kind of areas of, well, I don't like what they say about this, so I'm not going to do that. So he says there's a general sense here of obeying in a whole range of things, in fact, no exclusions. And it says this is well pleasing unto the Lord. There is something very delightful to God to see a family unit, a husband loving his wife, a wife loving her husband and honouring him and respecting the place that God has given, children obeying their parents, fathers not winding up and discouraging their children. A wonderful thing. I trust that that might be really applicable in our family units, that we might be testimonies to the grace of God and to what God can do in a Christian life. Thanks again for watching.